One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
Two Doomed Men podcast, the greatest, ready? The greatest podcast in the history of the country, perhaps even the world by far. I don't think anyone comes close.
What's up, Doom Nation, and welcome back. You are listening to the Two Doom Men podcast. We are live, as always. It's Skaggs and yours truly, the captain. We have the same reoccurring face with Garrett G Money. What's up, baby? And Doom Nation's original OG, our good friend Zack, the Unfit Statesman. What's up,
it's
boys?
Good to be back. I feel welcomed. I feel home. I feel as if wrecked a structure that I sit in and ponder and think and brainstorm, and I'm back there like a park that nobody else knows about. It's just
You live in the trailer park.
Good way to put it. And the one
good
viewer
old-fashioned fishing hole.
It's a
Nobody else knows
pedophile
about.
park in the pedophile trailer park down in Florida, where we just all meet, be comfortable, nobody judges anybody.
Well, the pedophile park right now is going on in Chicago, the DNC convention.
Yeah,
That's where a real pedophile park is. Yeah.
So, Skaggs, why don't you tell Doom Nation why we have gathered here on this fine Tuesday evening?
Well, I know the captain, he kind of just wanted to beat up on Kamala Harris.
Hell yeah, baby.
But, you know, the crew here. I thought it'd be, I think
fucking
it would,
hate women of color. Okay.
yes.
Yeah, this is if anybody outside of this is listening, this episode will probably be deemed sexist and racist.
Yeah. Like
Just
8
that.
seconds in, we're probably already demonetized on
Yeah.
YouTube here. Yeah, I like the idea of getting kind of some of our podcast friends together and mixes and matches here with Garrett as well. Garrett, I was thinking today, I was like, you're like our Joe Rogan. When I was making the thumbnail of the episode, you kind of look like Joe Rogan sometimes.
Yeah,
No,
I didn't
We have the same haircut.
Literally today.
same haircut, all yoked up
Same
from
haircut.
jujitsu.
We're both about. I think he's an inch taller than me, and I think I probably got about 5-6 pounds on him though.
I think Garrett looks like Michael Chiklis.
Oh, all right. I'll take Michael Chiklis, like the commish, or Michael Chiklis, the Shield.
The thing.
I don't know. I don't watch anything with Michael Chiklis in it because I'm not mentally disabled. But
Okay.
I have seen him, and he does have. You've got the aura, right?
Okay.
You've got it's like a broad, thick power, right?
I tried
Yeah.
it. There it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Garrett,
Yeah.
you're in our Fantastic Four. You're the thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That works in. I finally got a guy.
Fair enough. Yeah, you just turn into a fucking rock. So
Shocking that Chiklis was not on the Epstein list, by the way. Shocking.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Um,
can't get them all, right?
So, Zach, the last time we saw you was, I think, Christmas time. Am I right about that? I don't know. I feel like the months fly by here. And we were talking about Texas and the border scenario and all that stuff. A lot has changed since then. A lot of our theories, we were kind of giving our predictions at the time, too, around what was going to happen.
We had the Panhandle War, I think.
Yes, the Oklahoma Panhandle War, yeah.
What are your kind of general thoughts, man, about what has transpired, at least the last 2 months? They've definitely been kind of like the wildest ones in the political sphere.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can run through them. The Trump assassination was most certainly not a lone shooter. Okay,
Clearly,
we could. This is the crazy part about the FBI and the CIA and people getting involved in schemes like this is they forget that the same technology that they use to track us, they themselves are beholden to. And so we know from his cell phone, from that what's his name? Garrett Goldsberry, or what's his name? I forget his name. Timothy something Crooks or something. Yeah. I forget his name. Crooks, yes. But his cell phone was tracked to right outside FBI headquarters multiple times.
Yeah.
Okay. He was walking around the site with a rangefinder. I mean, come on. This is ridiculous. This is more I don't know how anything could get more obvious than the JFK assassination. This one might be more obvious. So that was an inside job. Yeah, I mean, it's not a shocker that Kamala Harris stepped in for Joe Biden. Actually, I should rephrase. It's not a shock that Joe Biden is no longer the candidate for the Democratic Party. I'm shocked they went with Kamala. I thought it was going to be like a Gavin Newsom, or somebody different, because she is just god awful. I mean, she just isn't likable. She has the same, whatever the unlikability factor of Hillary Clinton is, she has. And so I'm shocked they went with her. But and then just as of late, war with Iran potentially. Just today it came out that Joe Biden in March had told the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the military to be prepared for nuclear war with China, North Korea, and Russia, which is insane, because the idea of being prepared for nuclear war with China, Russia, and North Korea is the end of the world. You don't have to prepare for anything. It's just that's it.
You just nuclear warming. That's what we'd be getting out of that scenario.
And by the way, all the while, all this is happening, and it's the Democrats they're being exposed for crazier and crazier shit.
That's why Kamala has no policies.
Well, she has no policies, and yet still kind of neck and neck. So whoever's running Trump's campaign is retarded. Okay, there's no he is running a horrible campaign. He's not really focusing on
hasn't been crisp. Yeah,
no, it's horrible. I mean, this idea that he's switched. If you remember his 2016 campaign, it was, you don't like the establishment because they're corrupt. And I know that. I can corroborate your feelings because I know these people. So I'm going to fight for you. That was the messaging in the first campaign. Now he's running a Bush campaign where he's everybody on the left communist. It's no. Stop calling Kamala a communist. She doesn't even know what that is. She's an empty vessel. She's saying things. Okay, price controls. She has no idea of economic theory. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Stop. Kamala is a vessel for the establishment. Okay, and what you have to do, Trump, is be the guy that you were in 2016 and run against the establishment. Stop being when Trump ran, it wasn't a right versus left paradigm. It was anti-establishment versus establishment. And he for whatever reason, whoever's the head of his campaign right now is trying to push this as a right versus left campaign. It's right there for you, Trump. It's right there for
trying
you.
to frame him.
I agree with you.
Normal.
I think, but I also think maybe that's how they feel. Let's just say let's war game this. Maybe that's how they felt that they lost the 2020, even though we know how they really lost the 2020. But if they're going, even if we got more of the rights votes and more of these people's votes, then it will be harder for them to show the imbalance, because we all know that Kamala is 0% liked, like you said. Her own party, she couldn't even get is 1% of the vote, right? So if they do end up, let's say, picking the people pickers of I'm trying to say it without getting us kicked off, the people picking process, right?
Peter Piper.
Yes, exactly, right? So, but if they're trying to do that and they're showing how much that this is such a farce, I mean, look at it right now. We have no president. Joe Biden's not the president. He basically stepped down, and there's no president running anything. They just started showing him. They just put him on, I think, the DNC as the opening speaker, basically the guy closest to the bathroom so you can throw him out when you're done, right? So do you think it is, and I'm just spitballing here, I'm not defending or but do you think that might be part of the strategy this go around and why they are separating it? Because yes, he went established, he played on the heartstrings of people that hate the establishment like the rest of us, right? So do you think it might just be a strategy? Like, I think the strategy, like we were saying, we should use is like, there's no fucking president. What are we doing here? Right? Dave Smith said it.
Should be bringing that up more.
You should be bringing that up, that there's effectively no commander-in-chief operating in between our borders right now. Right. Or there is, but it's not who we're supposed to be.
It's Barack Obama.
And that Kamala was involved in the coup to literally get rid of him. But they're spinning it here.
And she's part of all the policies that she says she's going to fix on the first day.
Yeah, but she can fix them now. So to piggyback off of what Garrett and Zach were saying, Zach, I agree with you. I would like to see a bit more of the us versus the establishment. I think that'll really excite people and get them motivated. The problem is, I think this time around, Trump's trying to be a little bit more political, and that's why they're making it right versus left. Because when he's not political and when he's brash, when he's real aggressive on stage and calling people losers,
it's like
and this and that,
Soundbite City.
Yeah, for us, we love that because we talk to each other like that. We don't get offended by this nonsense. But the majority of weak Americans out there do. So if they keep it this right versus left battle, there could be a section of people, oh, Trump's not as aggressive as he used to be. I could get behind this. It's a better option, blah, blah. Whereas once you start going after the establishment, you start seeming a little crazy. Funny, crazy as it sounds, there's people out there that don't believe the establishment exists.
Yeah.
Whether, you know what I'm saying?
They're
so like
far gone, those folks.
Yeah. So, I could see him playing a little bit more of a diplomatic game because we even talked about that, Skaggs, after the debate, how he was so much more refined in the way he handles things. And I'm wondering if maybe that's what they're trying to play into the campaign.
Trying to make him more palatable.
They definitely have some sort of game plan that they're sticking to. Maybe they're going to change it up recently because they kind of changed who's involved.
Well, didn't they fire two of their people?
No, they brought back in that guy who I think got put in prison at one time or whatever. Forget his name. The one like punched somebody. They need like that sort of energy again. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Start going out there and laying people out.
Punch somebody like at one of the rallies or whatever. This is one of the man. I mean, we said we're going to beat up on Harris, but here we are beating up on Trump a little bit. I kind of just don't like the concept that Trump has to, go back. He's like trying to play a game instead of just telling the truth and being who he is. This is kind of one of the reasons why I don't just support him or really believe in him to that extent. It's like, well, what are you exactly? Is everything about you some sort of smoke and mirrors thing? Are you actually an anti-establishment guy? Are you playing a role when you were being like that? Because you're obviously playing some sort of role now. So like, what is the real you? It's one of the reasons why I kind of I'm not a Trump supporter, I guess you could say.
But you could apply that logic to every single person in DC.
Sure. But he's billed by his supporters as like the second coming of Christ. Let's compare him to like Ron Paul, who just told the truth always.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he, believe it or not, is a little bit more influenced by the people around him than you would think. Everybody kind of thinks of him as this bullheaded person who can't be told what to do. But I think John Bolton told him what to do. I think Jared Kushner told him what to do. I think Mike Pompeo told him what to do. And so I think some of the stuff that we saw from his administration, some of the rhetoric in his campaign are sort of remnants of the neocon influence that are brought in by the people he surrounds himself with. One of the things that he wasn't good at with his first presidency was surrounding himself with people that understood what got him elected and under the message that got him elected and then executing, right? He had like the idea that you run on sort of drain the swamp platform and then you bring in Bill Barr.
The swamp. Yeah, the swamp.
Like, what the fuck are you doing? So I think he didn't have I think he understood that there's a swamp, and I think he knows that there's a swamp because he knew the people that were in the swamp, and he would hear things, but he didn't necessarily understand the workings of it. He didn't understand the operating system, right? He knew that it was like Windows 11. Everybody you hear Windows 11, it's like, oh, that's the operating system, but you don't know the workings. You don't know how the fucking, would you rip open the fucking laptop, you have no idea what's going on there.
Yeah.
Right. So when he got in there, he didn't really, he's like, oh, John Bolton, he's fucking, guy.
So you think with that experience that you're talking about, him going through all that stuff, do you think maybe he gained being a smart guy? I'm like I said, I'm just troubleshooting here. Maybe he gained the experience, and that's why he's running it this way, because he sees who he has to play to. He sees who he has to bring to light a little bit more. Like, I mean, most of us, like, we knew Mike Pompeo and those guys were fucking animals, right? Most of us that are aware. Mm-hmm. But your average Joe had no clue who Mike Pompeo is, even though he's been in government for fucking 70 years. I mean, you could look back into
he ran the CIA.
No, I know, but most normal people don't even know who run the CIA.
Mm. So that brings up a good question, right?
Do you know what I'm saying? No, like we're aware of it, but like the masses that he's playing to, the masses that Kamala's playing to, they don't know who the fucking head of the FBI is. They don't know the CIA. They don't know Homeland Security. They don't know this one. They don't know that one. They don't know who's been in the policy. They don't know who was in the Reagan administration. They don't know that the same people were in the Bush administration. Same people were in the Nixon administration. Like it goes back that far. Most of the people don't even know that. That's what's wild,
So why even use a person like that then? Like it doesn't. If you're saying is no one even knows
influence
who that person is, right? But I'm saying like if in terms of like trying to win.
But if you bring them to light and then all of a sudden you go, oh, this name, and then you Google it and you're like, wait, he's been in office since 1947.
So the Q thing,
and then you can start going through,
use them to expose them.
But it's also like if something triggers your thought process, right? Or get your attention, you dig into it a little bit. I know I do. I know all you boys do, right? Like if something comes up, you're like, all right, let me do something. And then like you start, I mean, that's what happened to most
I don't do research. I read a headline and I will make shit up. I don't do research.
Zach just knows.
I want to make that very clear.
I think that's one of the most positive things about Trump, to be honest with you, Garrett, is not only did he stop Hillary Clinton and kind of end like the Bush-Clinton, dynasty, but he did, even if inadvertently, however you want to say he did it, he did bring to light how bad some of these fucking people are, like Bolton and Pompeo and Barr, and I could go on and on forever. That's one of the most whether he thought he was going to do that or not doesn't even matter, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, even if it was done by accident, you know what I'm saying? Like he did
fell into his lap.
Yeah, I mean, he did awaken a whole population of people to look into this and be like,
definitely
"Oh shit, I thought they were on our side."
Made politics cool,
and they're supposed to be on our team or our gang. They're supposed to be in the Bloods or the Crips, right? Yeah. And like we're supposed to do this and we're supposed to do that. And now you're like, "Oh, he's a piece of shit too."
So let's check in at the DNC convention. See what's going on over there.
Is there a live stream?
No, this is from yesterday. I got a bunch of clips from yesterday. I thought we'd play some and comment on them.
Don't adjust your headsets.
We met while working on the Obama-Biden campaign.
They brought Stephen Hawking back from the dead.
I was going to say, who the fuck is that?
This was genuinely insane. I understand, the Democrats' progressive woke policies, they want everybody to be seen and heard and all this stuff. But at a certain point, it becomes a mockery. And I understand that, they want to show support for disabled people. And as one of 4 gentlemen on this podcast right now with disabilities,
I was just going to say that disabled.
That is, I mean, that's a mockery. Who's not going to sit there and giggle a little bit? The was
and that was way too many syllables for what if he even did say that, right?
Right. And so if you just take a step back, like, cool, you want to give the disabled community a voice, get someone with an actual voice.
Okay. Yeah, get that fucking Down syndrome Sports Illustrated model.
Yeah. And the real kicker of it is, if you're not watching, you listened to a minute of somebody literally just mumble and moan into a microphone. And then this man's wife stood up, put on a big smile, and said, "Let me tell you what he just said. We met during the Obama administration." How did you know that's
He's like
what
a Pokemon, bro, and only Ash Ketchum understands what Pikachu is saying. That's what it is.
It was like when my little one didn't
that's-
talk and the other two could understand him, and we'd be like, "What are you saying?" They'd be like, "He needed a beer." I'm like, "Okay, cool."
For those of you who are just listening to the audio, Chris misled you. That was actually Hinder's new song, and it's a cappella, and that's about the level of talent that Hinder has. Okay, I want to make that very clear.
Somebody last night, shout out Chris, said that is Joe Biden's speechwriter.
Yeah,
and I almost fell out of my goddamn chair.
Look, man, I'm not gonna lie, I had a laugh. It was fucking funny. I'm having a good time. It's fun. I looked at that and I was like, that's kind of just more of the same. That's exactly what the establishment does. They just put people who have nothing behind them up there, and then they just explain to you what they mean. That's essentially Biden or even Kamala Harris, right?
Yeah, well, Kamala is the greatest EI pick of all time.
The most extreme version of that. They literally had a guy up there go, and then they explain to you. They mansplain to you.
The Democrats do with the gays and the retarded what the conservatives do with the blacks. They're like, we let them on stage. Listen,
they had that woman, that Hindu woman, give a speech at the RNC. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, similar.
It's like, my son was killed by illegal immigrants, and it's like, okay, sorry, but you know they're letting you on stage because you're a morbidly obese black woman. That's the only reason you're here.
Speaking of everyone's favorite retard, let's see what she had to say.
It is so good to be with everyone this evening in this hall and everyone at home. This is going to be a great week. And I want to kick us off by celebrating our incredible president, Joe Biden.
Okay, so he still is president.
Who will be speaking later tonight. Joe, thank you for your historic leadership, for your lifetime of service to our nation, and for all you will continue to do. We are forever grateful to you.
All that you will continue to do from Rehoboth Beach, Delaware.
We are forever grateful for your sex and crackling.
I know, we could all laugh at Kamala Harris here, but I think this was part of the deal. That they gave Biden, like, hey, look, either you get the fuck out of the way or we'll ruin you.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? Or if you do get out of the way, then we'll remember you as a hero. And when it comes time at the convention, we'll make sure that everyone's paying you their dues and talking about your legacy. And we'll make sure that I carve Agamemnon's name into the rock and every stone. And people, you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Like, this probably
100%.
was part of the deal, and it's why she kind of
that's what I said
her
when
speech with it.
That's what I said when we had this discussion with him about him, like the video and or him signing off on that thing and not even doing it on Twitter and not even on Leatherhead. Like, we had this whole talk about exactly what you just said, right? Like, we could either ruin you or we could send you off with like a hero's passage, right?
Yeah, I think you're seeing it literally play out the next couple of days here at the DNC.
And
it's
funny
like
enough, people were
caught having sex with the underage girl and encourage him to resign instead of fire him.
Yes, 100%.
Like
yep, 100%.
Exactly.
Funny enough, people on Twitter are saying that she is channeling her inner Obama for wearing a tan suit just like him.
Maybe trying to subconsciously trigger.
Dude, they do that shit. There was a think tank that was like, "What did Obama do best?"
Did you guys see they were fucking practicing walking around on stage? Like, her husband was practicing walking around on stage and like how he's gonna wave to people. That's how fucking phony these people are.
Well,
organically wave to the crowd.
After dealing directly with Joe Biden for the past 3 years, I'd be practicing how to walk on stage too.
Very true. I mean, the other thing is too is like if you watch any of these politicians talk, their hand gestures, the way they do stuff, the way they have the fake pen in the hand pushing at you and affirming and doing like all the CIA operatives to get people to like swing to your side and listen to you and think that you're in a position of power or authority and you have to listen to them. You can put 100 politicians next to her and they go to the same life coach where they're using their karate hands, they're doing all those other things, and it's not just because like
hands.
We're Italian and we live in this area, like it is what it is, you know, like that's how they have their certain cues and their pauses and their head tilts, you know, and it's just like it's such a fucking it's WWE, bro.
Yeah, I don't think anything we see anymore from them is remotely real.
There's nothing authentic coming from that camp. There's nothing authentic coming from either camp, really.
No shit.
You know,
look, here's an example. Oh, no, that's not the right one. I mean, I will check in with the commander-in-chief there in a moment, but let's see. I found this video here of
our favorite Jamie
Raskin.
He's the best.
And his speech. Let's listen to this one.
Remember what the mob chanted as they stormed the Capitol and injured our officers? Hang Mike Pence. Should have told Donald Trump that the president's job under Article 2 of the Constitution someone should have told Donald Trump.
Shut up. That was real?
To the Constitution.
Jesus.
Yeah, the teleprompter broke and he lost it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what, though? He lost it as a lawmaker for so many years. You figure, like, under Article 2 of the Constitution, he should be able to pull it off of his head since he is a lawmaker and been talking about the democracies and all that other stuff for so long. Little hiccup in the teleprompter, can't pull up the Article 2 and ad-lib that.
There's a real trouble with the Democratic Party once those teleprompters go offline. Go ahead, Zach.
I was going to say I have more respect for Joe Biden than I do Kamala Harris and Raskin in that moment because at least he just keeps talking,
bumbling around,
making like he knows, he understands that you know dead air.
Oh, you're not
becomes it sucks the energy out of the room. So all he has to do is like listen. He starts talking and then he sort of drifts away from whatever point he's going to make, but he's still talking and he's still making noise and he still has the cadence of
dead air time,
right? When that happened, like if he, you know,
he's a true professional retard.
Yeah, I mean, literally. Like, listen, if you're a politician and the teleprompter goes, you know, down, I don't really care. You know, a lot of people on the right are, you know, shit on people for, you know, watch it. It's like you're the president, you're doing other shit. People are writing your speeches. We already know this. Yeah, you're going to read teleprompter. I don't really have an issue with that. Okay, but in those moments. Right when the teleprompter goes down, I think you should have the intellectual capability, the articulacy to fill the time. So even if you're just going to do something like
bare
this,
minimum.
If you say, well, somebody should have told Trump, according to Article 2 of the Constitution, and the teleprompter goes down, and then you should be able to ad-lib. You should go, and of course, even if somebody did tell him, he's not going to listen. He's as stubborn as a fucking ox. It's like you can just fill, run your mouth for Christ. Think of something, string a group of words together, and formulate a sentence. It's crazy that very, very basic conversational skills that you would expect from politicians, very basic research skills, mathematical skills, reasoning skills, deduction skills, things that you would, if you're hiring somebody at a small business, you look for.
Yeah, he would. I wouldn't have hired him.
Exactly.
I interviewed him and that was like how he responded to a question. I'm not hiring you, buddy.
No, it's like.
Do you think it's because they're clones and they just came out of a tube and they never really lived a real life? That would explain a lot.
Dude, I was going to say Raskin is particularly unimpressive. He was one of the main guys in charge of the January 6th committee, and he's at the DNC giving a speech about January 6th, and he somehow can't fill 4 seconds of a teleprompter.
That's what I'm saying. Like Article 2, you've been talking about that talking point in January 6th for how long? And you could
they just make up everything about January 6th anyway. He couldn't just make up another 5
figure out another line to make up.
Yeah. particularly
First time I ever heard them say hang Mike Pence.
Yeah, that's the way it goes, I guess.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one either.
And he misunderstood that. I was at the Capitol that day, and I was starting to chant that Mike Pence is hung. That was a completely different thing. He misunderstood.
All right, let's see what Biden had to say. This one was something special.
We know from his own chief of staff, the 4-star General John Kelly, that Trump, when in Europe, would not go to the grave sites in France. The brave service members who gave their lives to this country. He called them suckers and losers. Who in the hell does he think he is? Who does he think he is?
I like that angry dementia.
Amazing people still buy that one.
No words for a person. They're not the words of a person not worthy of being commander-in-chief. Period. Not then, not now, and not ever.
Holy shit. You know what I just realized?
I mean that from the
Joe Biden is Junior Soprano.
You just realized that now? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's actually, because I'm just watching The Soprano now, and
oh my, that makes a lot of
there
sense.
was one of this. It's like one of the later scenes when Junior Soprano shoots Tony.
Yeah.
That scene when he walks into the house, and Junior Soprano doesn't have his upper teeth in.
Yeah.
And he goes, I lost my uppers. And Tony was there, probably upstairs, and then Junior Soprano goes, God, fuck it all. That's literally he is in his Junior Soprano dementia phase.
If he goes home, if he went home last night and he watched like the playback of the the convention, I could see him doing the Junior Soprano. The fuck? What am I doing on there? Remember that scene?
It is funny.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, when it was
from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yeah. He's like, the fuck am I doing on there? Yeah.
It's funny.
The other thing I thought that was pretty funny is in the beginning of the speech, he's like, oh, Trump couldn't even show up for the French shoulders. Isn't that the same place you showed up and shit your pants and had Macron?
That's also one of those
fucking shake hands for you because you literally shit your pants in front of everybody.
Yeah. It's one of those fake stories. What do you guys think about this angry Biden that makes an appearance every once in a while? You guys remember when he gave the speech?
Dark Brandon
in front of the red thing with the soldiers in the back.
I still wish whoever was like, all right, we're gonna take they were testing a new approach. They were testing all right, we're going to try a more aggressive Biden. They even nicknamed it, and people like Brooklyn Dad still run with Dark Brandon.
Dude, I have a cool guy at the end of my road that literally put up a fucking lawn sign or whatever, but it's Dark Brandon.
Yeah, I mean,
my kids were like, "What the fuck is that?"
The left cannot meme. Remember when they called Trump something like King or whatever, and everybody was like, "Hell yeah, MAGA King," and everybody was like, "Thank you, we're gonna use that." You know what I mean? They thought they were gonna come out with Dark Brandon, and his colors were gonna be black and red, and he was gonna be a badass, and it just looked like Hitler in his final days.
It did, and the way he was like,
yeah. He went full Nazi boot camp with that speech.
Well, leading into that as well, Kamala's new slogan:
"Power through joy." Right? No, what is it?
Strength through joy.
Strength through joy. Yep. Yeah, right from the Nazis.
Yep. Yeah. But no, it's all right, guys.
Strength through joy. Yeah, set up in November 1933.
Jews had a lot of joy back then in the 40s.
Tool to promote the advantages of Nazism to the German people and internationally. It's I don't know, man. I'm going to chalk that one up to them being
Nazi slogans.
Yeah, I'm going to chalk that one up to them being so incompetent that they came up with that one originally.
Yes,
and they just didn't fact check themselves, or they
just
didn't type that phrase into Google. Or anything
remember when Canada honored the World War II soldier, and then immediately found out he was a Nazi
against the Russians in World War II, and it's like, wait a minute, who fought against the Russians?
That's exactly what happened with the strength through power.
Yeah. This convention is. I have so many videos here, man. Let's just keep rolling with them. This was another insane one that I saw. I don't know if you guys saw this one. This one should speak to all of us particularly.
I live in Florida, and until 2 years ago, I was a full-fledged member of MAGA. I believe Trump. I was a MAGA pundit I had my own podcast. I was in a state of panic, terrified that Democrats were destroying our country. When the pandemic hit, we needed leadership, but we were given almost nothing. It was a major betrayal to the country. So I finally stepped outside the MAGA echo chamber. I stopped listening to what Trump said and looked around with my own eyes. And I realized he had been lying about pretty much everything. Lying is Trump's toxic superpower. He's ripped apart families, communities, our whole country. So this is my message to all the Republicans and independents who are watching. People like me who voted for and believed in Trump. I made a grave mistake, but it's never too late to change your mind.
Those frames aren't in good shape for his face. He should know better.
We need to be able to trust.
Blink twice if you need help.
All in Kamala Harris.
I don't know if he could blink twice, and I'm highly contesting the fact that he's a right-wing Trump MAGA podcaster.
How much
just
did
because
they
he's
pay
got
you
the
to say
vaccine, he's got like Justin Bieber vaccine eye. So I'm highly doubting that one. I think actually somebody posted a link to this guy's podcast in the they did. Hold on, I'll reshare it for you. And not very impressive, but we've even got him beat in terms of listeners and things like that. I mean, like he's got videos with 1 view, 2 views from 5-6 years ago. The Rich Logius podcast, I guess, whatever it is. So it's an interesting take on propaganda. It's like they're running out the caricature of what a MAGA supporter is to some extent, and then be like, "You see, I'm reformed."
The guy who thinks for himself and has his own podcast.
Yeah, it kind of looks like he's been lobotomized as well. So
the thing you kind of have to remember at this point is because a lot of times we'll sit back and go, "Jesus Christ, do they really think that this is appealing to?" But we do have to remember that don't really have to appeal to whoever's voting for Kamala is going to vote for Kamala. Whoever's going to vote for Trump is going to vote for Trump. And they don't give a shit about the people in the middle. They really don't. They don't give a shit about. They don't give about swing voters. You think they give a shit about swing voters? All they'll do is label them as domestic terrorists, right? If you're libertarian, independent, or a fucking, undecided, you're a terrorist. You don't know anything. You have no grasp on the political system. And they don't give a fuck about you. There's no real incentive at these things, at RNC, at the DNC. There's no incentive to put on a truly
compelling argument to jump ship,
incentivizing argument or show or lineup. There's no real reason to do it anymore. And so the next step is to just galvanize the base. That's all you can do. And so you kind of pick the sort of the most simplistic, unrefined, instinctual political messaging that you can, that will resonate with the voters. You don't want to get too nuanced. You don't want to bring up Palestine and Israel on the left right now. You want to do that. Let's just stay with very simplistic messaging. And so there's no, we see that and we go, like all four of us go, that's retarded. Look at the RNC and went, ugh, gross. People, waving Israeli flags. Not a great look. But again, it's like, you don't have to really... There's no nuance. There's no complexity. There's no incentive to actually make something good. It's like Hollywood now. There's no incentive to make something good. It doesn't matter anymore. So while us four sit here and critique it, it's like those retards are like, listen to all these people critiquing it like we actually give a flying fuck,
I think you put it well. It's kind of just for the base itself. Put yourself in their shoes for a moment. You watch that and you kind of get this reassurance from something like that. Oh, you see, we are the good guys. Look, there's even some, MAGA people who are coming around and admitting that they were wrong and they're coming to our side. I feel much better about myself right now. Like this is, they're very egocentric. The NPCs that would be following Kamala Harris, right? So in a sense, I think you're completely right, Zach. It's kind of like they're just throwing them a bone to make them feel better about themselves in a way. It's like the pep rally before the football game on Sunday, right? Saturday night, and they do a bunch of shit that makes you all excited and ready to go out and go out for the big game on Sunday. I don't think they actually are going to change anybody's mind. Who the fuck is even watching this? Like what normal person, independent, is even watching the DNC convention?
I've
to make fun of it.
Right.
I've put this together over the past few days leading up to this show. People have literally been conditioned for this moment in time.
Yeah.
There's only two people who are voting for Kamala Harris. The people who genuinely have Trump derangement syndrome and the brainwashed, the mentally weak. And we've seen it nonstop. Pro-vaccine, orange man bad, pro-vaccine, trust the science, Ukraine, Russia man bad. The list goes on and on of a certain group of people being told by the government, by social media, by mainstream media, you blindly support this now. End of story. Go get your vaccine. Go put your blue and yellow bumper sticker on your car. Go support these people. It started to fall apart a little bit when it came to Israel. The brainwashed people did not fall into lockstep with that one. But now Kamala Harris has completely upended democracy, disenfranchised an entire political party. Democracy is literally at stake with her on the ballot because there was nothing, democratic about her election or her being installed into this power. And people were blindly told, you now support Kamala Harris. And everybody went, I support Kamala Harris. We've watched people get conditioned to this point in time.
How funny would it be if they go through this whole DNC and she doesn't get enough votes to become the nominee?
No, they already did that.
Yeah, I don't see it not happening.
But
but
if people just start
I agree.
Going, yeah, we're taking back our electoral votes. Yeah, we're taking back.
They did that, because they're the least, the furthest thing from Democratic whatsoever. They did that in like a Zoom call with literally just the super delegates, and they're like, we can't even make sure that this goes to the convention itself. Let's do this in a private Zoom call.
We have to protect ourselves from ourselves.
Yeah, it should be.
But it's for the benefit of you,
man.
It's for you guys.
Again, the whole idea of this democracy, the captain. There is no democracy or anybody.
It's their democracy.
Farce.
Yeah,
it's been that way. What do we say? This is now like at least a third or fourth super obvious DNC primary that was completely rigged. And they're the people here crying about democracy. It's the furthest thing from it. That's almost like a boring point to make at this stage in the game. I think you should make it, right? Because there are people who are still out there listening. I've probably heard it before, but it almost is a very boring point at this point in time.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Any political point is boring. Like
for us, we've been doing this shit for fucking years now.
The transcendent political points that you hear every once in a while, you're like, shit, that's pretty. I'm glad I heard that. But most of the time, like it's almost at this point, everything I hear is like on the. It's like the equivalent of hearing somebody go, "Well, they're all corrupt."
Right. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Thanks for your fucking nuanced point. Jesus Christ.
You're real cultured, pal. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane. And by the way, at this point, I'm actually beginning to enjoy the more absurd defenders of like I've recently been listening to arguments of the lone gunman theory and the JFK assassination, because I'm beginning to enjoy those. Those become a little bit more entertaining and absurd to me. So I'm more interested in those than I am hearing somebody break down. It's like, yeah, I know. Yes, sure. I'm sure you could explain certain things to me that I didn't know about the JFK shooting, and I'm sure you could break down the Zapruder film a little bit better than I have an understanding of it currently. But what I really want to hear is this guy who thinks that there was a lone gunman who got off like 8 shots and hit
with ice
the mayor of Dallas and JFK, and somehow blew his head backwards from a backward position. Like I would love to hear that, because that's more conspiratorial than whatever the fuck you're gonna say is, and that's where my mind goes. It's like we've inverted reality here, where all the things that once were the mainstream are now the conspiracies. It's like if you say, well, the COVID that was it worked and there was no adverse side effects. Oh, well, I want to hear your theory, because you're gonna have some workarounds that are going to be interesting. You're gonna have a little fun with this. You and I are going to find our way here. It's like every because it's the meme where like, I've ran out of conspiracy theories. I need new ones. It's like, well, you can always turn back to the mainstream narrative that you questioned in the first place, and see how they jump through hoops to get to where they want to go. It's like,
it's entertaining.
what do I have to do here to be entertained? Do I have to fucking do I have to bring up the point that do I have to say that Sandy Hook was fake to have a little fun anymore? For Christ.
I know what you're saying. I've done that a little bit lately with the Israel-Palestine stuff. I kind of want to hear what some of these Zionists have to say about it, right? Like, they're so damn dug into their position, and it doesn't matter how many debates Dave Smith does and just completely blows up whatever it is they're trying to say. They're so damn dug in, and I'm just like, how the fuck are they that dug in? Maybe they do know something that I don't know, right? So I was listening to a recent one with that guy Mark Pellegrino, and his argument was basically like, if you ever do, if one nation ever does something wrong to another nation, then all the people that live in that nation void all their rights, and they could just be slaughtered, but basically at will. I was like, all right, well, that's new. I've never heard that one before. That's pretty interesting. At least he's got some sort of logic.
Nice new concept.
Justifying the policy. It's bizarre, but I was like, all right, well, I guess I kind of understand where he's coming from in that regard.
Americans would have no rights if that were the case. We should have literally
exactly.
zero.
It's Osama bin Laden logic. Your government did this, therefore all the people are guilty by association, and you're all target for assassination without repercussion or something like that. It's wrong, but it's interesting, at least at this point in the game, see how people justify them psychologically. It's strength through joy, I guess you could say.
Honestly, like I said, I'm finding Kamala Harris quite enjoyable. People are saying she's drunk. She's having fun.
Yes.
Okay, leave her alone. She's having fun. Okay.
Yeah. What do you guys think about that one? That whole debate that came out this week, that she's actually just drunk all the time, and there was like a police officer saying that they knew she was drunk at some meetup that they had or some shit like that. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Who doesn't like fucking day drinking?
Yeah. I mean, Nancy Pelosi's never sober.
Listen, the other thing is maybe she is, it's one thing for us four momos to get on here and talk in front of a certain amount of people or anything else, right? But like, I don't know. I've done public speaking. I'm sure some of you guys have spoken in front of bigger crowds. Like there is nerves to it, right? So maybe she gets real nervous, but I figure being a prosecutor and how they shine her as the superhero of prosecution, she's used to doing this in front of a courtroom. She's used to doing this in front of the things. Maybe she has a fear about speaking, so she drinks.
I don't think she's got a fear.
Take the edge off.
I don't think she's got a fear of public speaking. I think she just has a general fear of the establishment and the genuine psychopaths in DC that she is surrounded by, even though she is one.
There's always somebody telling her what to do. Don't worry about it.
I mean, if you guys watch
what to do well enough.
Yeah, if you guys watch the most recent season of The Boys, it's very politically charged. A lot of MAGA and Q references, and a similar situation to what's going on today, but in like superhero worlds. And they're talking about like an assassination attempt on the president, and the VP is kind of against this, but she's in on it. And then like just behind the scenes, like they do the go ahead, and she's like, well, I didn't agree to this. And they're like, too fucking bad. We'll ruin you. We'll kill you too if we have to. And so now she's terrified, and she's stuck in this position as well. I mean, I can't imagine the day she woke up and Obama was like, listen, we're going to have a coup against Joe Biden, and if you're not part of it, we'll take you down too. Or you could be the next president of the United States. Easy decision.
Yeah. Easy decision. Yeah, that's what Victoria Newman, right? Yeah.
It's the old LBJ position, right? It's the JFK, you're questioning whether or not we should be in Vietnam. Okay. Right. Hey, LBJ, I know you're fucking kind of a fucking freak from Texas, some Democrat fucking freak. But JFK's not getting. He just doesn't get me. Do you get me? That's what it is. It's like, you know what? He's not getting me right now. Do you get me? Do you understand where I'm coming from? And it's like, if you know, it is kind of, it's one of those things where it's like, fuck, I didn't sign up for this. Like LBJ, I think actually did sign up for it. I think he's a psycho. But Kamala Harris is I think she is as cold as anybody else would be in that position. but I don't think she's particularly sociopathic or
bloodthirsty.
Bloodthirsty or striving for power. I think she just got in and she's a weak person, and so she's more able to be manipulated. And so I think she's kind of in it now, and it's like she's like, well, fuck.
By accident,
now,
you think she kind of got there, like she accidentally mulliganed her way there? Because I completely disagree with that. I
don't think she accidentally got there, but I do think that she didn't understand the gravitas of the situation. I think she understood.
Yeah, I don't think she got there the way she planned to.
And by the way, I don't think Trump understood. Like when Trump goes, I forget who said this.
Do you guys remember when Trump won for the first time in 2016?
Yeah, it's like, holy shit, the guy who's doing the apprentice is the president.
Remember, he didn't look happy the first recording of him when he won. He looked like ominous, like, oh man. Like,
it's like I'm sure it's like I forget who said this, but Trump, like during his campaign, would go on stage and say that Obama created ISIS, which isn't really true, but
kind of true.
Obama did fund them and arm them, and he didn't create them, but he certainly helped them. And basically what that is when you say Obama created ISIS, what you're accusing Obama of is treason, which the penalty for is death.
And me and Garrett are still waiting for that.
Yeah. And so I think when Trump got elected and started realizing, holy shit, I said Obama created ISIS, and he's pissed. And he knows a lot of people. These people don't seem to. These aren't the people that are on my show, The Apprentice. These aren't the people who I even do business with. It's not even them. These are people who seem to speak to me in a way as if I don't matter. And I think that's what happened. I think Trump started talking to people who went, he'd go, I'm Trump. And they'd go, yeah, shut the fuck up. Shut your mouth. And then he, whoa, Jesus, I don't think anybody's ever spoke to me like that in my entire life. I can see that a
little bit, but I mean, for being as big of a developer in the city that he was in, he's dealt with senators, presidential candidates, mob bosses, like on construction sites. So, like, I can see that. I can see what you're saying, because there are people that are scary as fuck. It's a saying we always talk about. There's always somebody bigger and badder in the fight world, right?
If Hillary Clinton walked into the room, I'd be scared.
I see what you're saying with that all the time. I don't know if that is.
Here's what I'll point to as my justification for that opinion. He was insistent about releasing the JFK files. He insisted he was going to do it, and then he didn't. And then he goes,
Pompeo talked him out of it.
Well, no, I don't think he talked him out of it. I think he he spoke
of it. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But I think it's like it's one of those situations where, and then he goes, "Well, if you knew what I knew, you wouldn't release it either." It's like we all know what you know. You know that, and we all know that we know. But we also know that.
Is that a way of putting it out there without putting it out there and not getting your whole family murked?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's like I think there's
these lines, right?
There's levels to it, right? There's a reason why Trump didn't do everything he wanted, and it's because he ran up and he knew that he could run into a buzzsaw for this and get himself fucked in. I mean, he could get
100%. So I got a question for you guys, just piggybacking off of this. How you're talking?
Hold on, I gotta. Well, you guys talk. I gotta piss real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. So
signature move.
Yeah.
So, but like what he was saying, I kind of wish he was here because he was saying it, but like we say all the time, like we bitch and complain about these presidents, but in the same token, we're like, they don't really control anything, right? Yeah. So what's the game here?
Well, I think Trump went in there to try and control things and quickly realized it's a much different you know what I mean? Like I agree that there is some
where he doesn't see everything.
I agree there is some power that comes from sitting in the Oval Office. I think if you're part of the team, part of the clique, part of the establishment, that being president gives you more power. It's not necessarily, like Obama and like Bill Clinton and George Bush, like they might have had a little bit more power because they were in on it. Whereas Trump had to fight for everything and was able to do things.
The power comes from the money because, like, okay, yeah, you're the president and you have all this power, but you're still bowing down to all these mega donors and lobbyists and everything to get money to make sure that you can make the next campaign. And it's not even about making
DC.
Better, it's not even about making better policy or anything. It's allowing you to stay in office for a significant amount of time for you to obtain illegal wealth, right?
Yeah.
So, like, is that what the game is? And that's just what's being exposed, whether Trump's in control, whether this one's in control. I mean, most of us have known this game. I mean, anybody that's a fan of George Carlin has listened to him talk about this for years, right? You know, and many, many more people. You know, I'm just using him as like a cultural reference, right? So my always thing is like we say what's the answer, right? Like that's always my thing is like and me and Skaggs have had this debate before where it's like the libertarians have the best ideas, but they're terrible at execution because nobody gets in. They're not able to try the policies. They're not able to do this. Now, are their policies right? Yeah, a lot of them are right, but nobody, like, you can't put pen to paper. So it's like pixie dust and fucking unicorn farts all the time. Let me finish. Okay. So, like, but I'm just saying from like our perspective, so our children have a better life and our families. How do we right this ship? Because we're telling everybody the problems. We know all the problems. We're offering some solutions. Nobody's executing on solutions, so we still have the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
To piggyback on everything you guys are saying, you know, you're saying, does the president have any power? I'll ask you both a question. Where does power ultimately reside?
Whoever has the most money.
Garrett?
Money.
What's that?
Where does power ultimately reside?
It depends.
Mount Doom.
Power. No, it does. Like in my head, I mean, it depends what type of power. Because I mean,
just the concept of power. Like, where does power ultimately reside? It resides. You could say at the end of a barrel of a gun, right? The monopoly on violence, and whoever can control that is the person who pulls the strings. So you guys are debating, like, does the president actually have any power or not? Yes, they do, right? Because they're a figurehead. And in America, we have this, you know, we have this unique concept of the Second Amendment and like the decentralization of monopoly on violence, right? Where like the population has a capacity to commit violence as well as the government. So now, while the president might be like emasculated, where he's not really in charge of the government, well, he's damn sure a pretty good figurehead for the people of America, especially if he leads a populist movement of armed, you know, people from the population. Now, where does power truly reside? You could use.
Well, look what they did about him leading unarmed people. And how we know how they spun it and how they did it.
That's what they do. I'm just speaking to
I get what you're saying.
Does the president have any power within the government? Probably.
I was going to say the president has power the same way that the dollar has value. It's like theoretically no, but yeah,
right.
You know,
at the same time, yes.
Theoretically no, but we still pay for shit with it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and it's also it's like he's like, oh, the dollar doesn't have any value, and it's like, well, do your lives, and we can wipe you off the face of the earth if we want to. Just remember,
the president has as much power as the Constitution has. Right? The Constitution is just a piece of paper. It only means anything if people actually believe in it. The president's power only means anything if people actually believe in it or not. The government is what it is. It's going to do what it wants to do. But if you had a president like a Trump who was against the establishment for real, he wanted to, let's say for shits and giggles, lead an armed rebellion against the rest of the government, people would follow him to go do that. Power resides at the end of the barrel of a gun.
Yeah.
Whoever chooses. This is one of the you mentioned libertarians, right? Libertarianism is a great ideology and theory and all that stuff, but it's rooted in the non-aggression principle, which is good. I don't think aggression is a good thing. But at the same time, that's one of the reasons
it's
why
necessary sometimes
libertarianism doesn't go anywhere, is because we're not willing to enforce our ideology on people via force or via aggression.
Well,
that's where power resides.
It's one of those things where it's like libertarianism is, you can't do libertarian versus Democrat versus Republican, because the Democrats and Republicans are playing a little bit of a different game,
right,
than libertarians are. That game is politics.
World domination.
Politics and it's a sort of a malignant form of domestic expansionism.
Mm-hmm. I've heard people describe the Libertarian Party as it's a party that intends to not exist one day, right? Which is, I understand why. It's because we don't want to rule over everybody. There shouldn't need to be a political party, but at the same time, okay, well then there's going to be another Republican or Democratic party is going to spring up again, and start doing the same thing over again. So while it's a noble, idea and thought and philosophy to have, I even will admit that it probably does have its limits in reality, or at least in the certain the paradigm.
There's no way to get rid of the state.
You should live by those things by your own.
Here's the real thing. The libertarianism should actually, the principles should exist in both parties, right? That libertarianism actually shouldn't necessarily be a party. It should be principles that exist in both parties. And I think one of the reasons why libertarianism is now size that it is because both the right and the left have been creeping toward authoritarianism.
Oblivion.
For blatantly
20, 30
for 5
years?
decades.
Yeah, it's outright authoritarianism.
Yeah.
They're
And
not
so
as good hiding it anymore. Yeah.
Right. So it's almost like libertarianism had to, because the Democrats and Republicans abandoned all of libertarian principles that they once had. I saw an interview from
there's no moderates left.
Well, it's not even. There's no
because that's where you would probably fall with that, right? Like if you have those libertarian principles,
moderate.
Well,
the middle.
Even if you go back to I watched an interview with it was an older interview, maybe the 70s, of a Democrat woman who was an anti-vax Democrat woman.
Yeah, they're like far right extremists now.
Right, but she was saying it's like bodily autonomy. We should be it was very it hinged itself on libertarian principles and the non-aggression principle. You don't have the right to tell me what I have to do with my body, type of thing. And as the two parties abandoned those principles, it almost felt libertarianism had to become its own thing because it no longer existed within the context of the two-party systems. It had to become its own third party. It had to. And you always had libertarianism as a separate movement, but it never was like it is today. It never was like that. And it's because it's been deemed necessary by the people that adhere to those principles, because those principles no longer exist on the right and the left. So this idea that they're like, wow, the libertarian movement has grown. Well, that's only because the more the left and the right abandon libertarian principles of freedom and sovereignty and the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, censorship, natural rights. The more they abandon them, the more the libertarian party grows, because you have to.
It's almost out of necessity.
Yes,
right?
If the left and the right were able to retain those principles that I believe at one time they probably both had, at the very least, maybe not to the extent that the modern day libertarian sees them appropriate, but a lot more than what the right and the left have now, there probably wouldn't even necessarily be a need for a libertarian party. But because, like I said, the right-left paradigm have just abandoned it completely, well, what the fuck else? Where are we supposed to go?
Especially during COVID, right? That was like, the most over-the-top assault on people's liberty we've ever seen in our fucking lifetime.
Yeah,
by all sides.
And during that time, man, the Libertarian Party itself was a fucking joke. It didn't do it wasn't there like on the cutting edge of opposing the law.
I always said
or anything like that. So because of that, going back to like doing things out of necessity, the Mises Caucus Project and a lot of this stuff, a lot of people thought like, fuck, if there's gonna be a libertarian party in existence, it might as well be run or taken over by people who are actually libertarians and have a radical libertarian message to it. Right? I still completely fucking think that's true. Maybe there shouldn't be a libertarian party, right? But if there is, it should be run by people who are actually libertarians and a thorn in the side of the regime. Even if it's never going to win or accomplish anything, okay, well, at least it won't get like subverted by leftists who are then going to like LARP as libertarians and convince people like libertarianism is what Chase Oliver is. Like
I was just going to say, and then elect people like Chase Oliver.
We're still struggling in that regard, right? I guess you could say, but there's some value, I think, into like hanging on to the thing and, you know, keeping retards away from it. I guess you could say it's still work in progress.
Yeah, these have been the most important 9 years of the Libertarian Party. If they could have ever done anything big, it would have been these years. You know,
still working on it, buddy. Still working on it. You know, Trump came and spoke to the convention. There's a lot of, you know, he's trying to court the vote. It's a block. It's a growing block. I look at it as it was a like a white pill sort of thing. If you said this a couple of years ago, people would be like, "Huh, what?"
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it is becoming more of a well-known thing,
mainstream thing.
Any other thoughts, boys? Maybe we'll go over to the tweets of the week here in a second.
I'm good.
Yeah, I would say my thoughts are don't if you're sick of the right-left paradigm, don't turn to libertarianism. Stop voting. Stop participating in the system entirely.
You want to be an agorist, just don't participate in the system.
Well, I don't even want to be that because there's some. I am inconsistent, and I don't make up my mind. I'm like a woman, but I will say, here's what I can tell you. Everybody up until this point, bitching and moaning about how shitty things are, all those people that you know, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go participate in the system that they hate in November. And you might say, well, it's just what we have to do. It's our civic duty. You have to pick. You got to pick. It's the only way we can it's the only thing we can, it's the only way we can change things. We start small, baby steps. Yeah, but change really doesn't happen that way historically. Let's be 100% honest with ourselves.
It starts with guns and blood and
guns.
war.
It starts with, well, if you're going to take our money and do that with it, then we're just not going to give you any more money. That's how it starts. And unfortunately, we live in a society that's in no way homogenous. And so trying to organize something like a tax protest or a vote protest would be extremely difficult.
Yeah,
but I don't think that I quite honestly, I do not see another way. I don't see another way.
Yeah. I agree with you on that, man.
I agree with you on that.
I have a friend who bitches to me all the time about the two-party system. And every time he does, I tell him about the Libertarian Party and the Mises Caucus and some of the principles it stands for and blah, 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 blah. I go a couple months without seeing him, see him again. So it's bitching about the two-party system. And I'm like, I've fucking told you like
I just figured out who it is.
About this. I'm like, I now don't even talk to him anymore about it. I'm like, you just want to bitch. I've come to realize. I'm like, you're not actually interested. You don't actually not like that that there's a two-party system. You just want to complain. That's it. You just want to complain about everything all the time. And it's just a complaint. Like you haven't actually ever taken a step to break yourself out of that or have some sort of positive effect on it or do the minimum required research or anything like that. You just want to bitch and complain and, be like going against the grain while you do it at the same time.
Contrarian.
Yeah, in a sense. Yes, exactly. So I've had enough of those fucking conversations with certain people. Captain, I guess you figured out who that one was.
Yep. I know exactly who it is.
All right. Let's go over to our tweets of the week. Do you have any videos, Cap, in here?
No, mine's just a tweet.
Okay. I got 3. Captain got 1. My first one's from D.L. Hughley. He said, one man freely gave up power to his vice president. The other man tried to have his vice president killed. Hashtag Team DL. Yeah, I mean, dude.
That's a lie.
Yeah. I don't know.
Tried to have Pence hung. Stop it.
Yeah. One man
honestly,
Biden freely gave up power to Harris.
Yeah. No. How did he give up power? He's still in office. This is really like, did I miss like an hour or two of January 6th? Because I really don't remember this kill Mike Pence thing.
Yeah, I guess it's because people, built that, what was it, that gallows or whatever there. But it had nothing to do with it. Again, yeah, you guys want to relitigate January 6th now? It's nonsense. It's just a think tank talking point.
FBI involvement.
It's interesting that everyone's making that point right now. They wanted to kill Mike Pence. Like, within this one show.
He's a piece of
referenced
shit.
it a couple of times. What are you going to say,
Can
Zach?
you imagine? I was going to say, can you imagine like reading that tweet to somebody who like due to
George
inflation is
Washington.
like really struggling to feed their children. They're like,
Yeah.
well, one guy fucking tried to have his your guy tried to have their vice president killed. It's like, well, my son is malnourished, so
exactly.
I was
don't
listening
know.
to I was listening to Dave Smith the other day, and he was talking about he's like, you know, the Harris campaign, like they truly just have no policies. It's just attack Trump, this, that. And like for the guy who just lost his job and is struggling to feed 3 children because of inflation, they don't really care that like at the Kamala Harris rally, people leave with smiles. And for the first time ever, there's a politician that's bringing smiles back to the voters. Well, bitch, smiles ain't going to put food on the fucking table. I need somebody who's not going to tax the shit out of us, who's going to fix this country and help lower inflation so I could afford to feed my children shitty American food.
I think smiles aren't going to give me disposable income to pay a hooker to give me a rim job. Okay, we all have needs.
Smiles are what you will be giving once you get all that.
Yeah,
Smiles was a strip club like a couple miles down the road from me for years, so I can understand where this is headed.
I view this election. Obviously, I'm not the biggest believer in democracy and all that, but I do view this election kind of as a referendum on how many NPCs have they created, right? Like, have they created enough that plus the other funny business is enough for them to always win the thing?
And I think they're having success
with it. I'm going to run my campaign as a referendum on the word referendum. I keep hearing that word, and I guarantee you people around me that are saying it don't know exactly what it means. They just heard it on a podcast, and they keep saying a referendum on this, and I'm like, spell it.
Captain Spelling, spell referendum.
Nope,
can't do it.
Referendum.
Yes,
I'm gonna go to one of my third tweet of the week here because somebody was talking about how she has no policies, and Garrett, you sent this as well earlier before from Zero Hedge. Kamala's policies so far: price controls, 28% corporate tax, 44.6% capital gains tax, 25% tax on unrealized gains.
The unrealized is
fucking insane.
That is, when I read that, I mean, how dare you even offer that up? It takes brass balls to put that as one of your policies, because it is taxing you and robbing you of money that you don't have yet. Yeah, that you don't even have.
Yeah. Don't even get me started on this fucking taxes. Like, this is insanity that people, and you know what? And I think we've had this talk before. I'm like, name me one person that during tax season is like, make sure I don't get one discount, make sure I don't get one credit, make sure I don't save any money, right or left. Like, taxation is theft. And the people that be like, oh, they didn't pay their fair share. The fucking poorest person on the planet doesn't go to their accountant and go, all right, make sure that I pay everything I'm supposed to, and I can't write off anything, and I give the government as much money as I can. Our forefathers would be fucking rolling in their graves right now. We're at like 70% taxes, and we're bitching about, why don't you give more? Oh, you're escaping out on it. Like, the people that don't pay taxes at this point, like, they're my heroes.
Yeah, I'm not for this concept of like, we got to tax the rich people or anything like that.
How about you stop spending our fucking money so you don't need to keep raising the taxes? Yeah. How about that?
The unrealized gains thing, for those who don't know, like, let's say you buy a stock and then the price of the stock goes up a lot after you've bought it. You haven't sold the stock yet, so you haven't actually cashed it out yet. She's saying you would have to pay taxes on the amount theoretically that it's worth in the moment.
And even if it goes down, you still have to pay.
Maybe you don't even have any money. Maybe it's like the first thing you ever spent money on. Like you saved, like you just got a job. You saved $100. Like, let's say you just got your first job, right? You have no money to your name. You saved up $100. Your first $100, some wise person's like, invested in this stock in the stock market, and then you buy like one share, and then that share ends up, I don't know, something like Amazon happens, and that one share was worth like thousands of dollars or something like that. And you haven't sold that one share yet. You have no money still, but now you have to pay tax on all of that, and you don't even have any money. It's insane. I actually bought my house off of unrealized gains, in a sense, right? Like, I invested in a bunch of stocks. They happened to turn out really well. I then had all that money, which I was hanging on to. I didn't cash it out and sell those stocks yet. Found a house, sold them, used the money to pay for the house. that in a sense, I wouldn't have maybe been able to do that if this policy was in fucking place, because all that money would have been, all my funds would have been zapped.
Well, shame on
got to sell it.
Buying a house and not renting it from BlackRock.
What is wrong with you, Skaggs? Trying to live on your own.
But she will,
That's
you know,
not very
these
communal.
Right. I know, but keep in mind, she's trying to spin these things as like, oh, only rich people have unrealized capital gains, and I'm for the common
Only rich
worker,
people were supposed to pay taxes after the war, and now even people on fucking Social Security and everything else are still paying taxes. This is ridiculous.
They're only supposed to.
I'm pretty sure with the price controls thing too, didn't they?
That seems to work, right?
I think it's, and this is always because I'm in Jersey and it baffles me, and I wasn't here in Jersey during Hurricane Sandy. I was still in South
Skaggs
Dakota.
and I were in Atlantic City.
I was in Jersey.
Go ahead, Zach. This is interesting because I was thinking a lot about the hurricane when this came out. So go ahead.
So the price could. I read so many articles about the lines at the gas pump because of price controls, and nobody was happy about it. And it's like, to me, it's like this is what was Hurricane Sandy, 2012,
something like that.
Yeah, I remember that. There were 16 or something. It's like, it's not that long ago that everybody was in agreement that price controls were fucking people. That's not good. And
but
so you're
the American people are stupid and have no memory whatsoever.
Prices relay information, right? When you then insert yourself as the government into blocking the flow of information, the whole system gets fucked up. Like with Hurricane Sandy, there was no gas, right? Because whatever the transportation of gas was disrupted for a couple of days or whatnot. But because there was price controls on that, they could only, the gas stations could only sell the gas at whatever, $4 a gallon, instead of what the free market would have decided it should have been worth at the time, which is probably like $13, $14, $15 a gallon, because there was a shortage. So because of that, everybody freaked out and started going to gas stations to buy gas at $4 a gallon in like 1 or 2 canisters, because they thought, oh no, maybe I'm going to need it for whatever I'm doing. If it was $15, $20 a gallon, people would have been a little bit smarter and be like, maybe I don't need any gas right now, and I won't go get it. Because
people are hoarding up, because I'll tell you what, you didn't have electric power for 18 days. So your whole house was running off of a generator day and night.
Someone who really did need the gas will then go and pay the $15 or $20 a gallon, and the market will sort itself out. But when you inject yourself,
so do you think there's a difference?
That all that information is never exchanged. And
is there a difference between price control and price gouging?
Price gouging is what they're trying, is like the opposite.
Are marketing it as.
Right.
No, but what I'm saying is like technically, like, everybody needs gas, and you're the only one with gas, and you're like $100 a gallon, right? You'd be like, you motherfucker, we're starving, my kid's freezing, and now you're gonna charge me $100 when none of us can go to work, everything else, right? So is there a difference between price gouging and price control? I would say there is a difference, right?
There's a massive difference. The difference is the reaction of the consumer. If a company has a monopoly on a product and just says, we're the only people that can sell
like
candy
that dude
bars.
with the AIDS pill.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like, okay, so we're gonna charge $183 for every candy bar. Nobody's gonna buy candy bars, and they're gonna be forced to bring the price down because it's not profitable for them. Price controls come from a government entity that has nothing to do with the business that is incentivized by the profit to satisfy the consumer needs. That's the difference. Price controls come from somebody who are not incentivized to satisfy the customer. Price gouging, although I believe is a ridiculous business strategy, but it is coming from the company that holds the resources or the goods that the consumers want, and two, they are beholden to the consumer's reaction, right? So the government is not beholden to the consumer reaction, but the price gouges is, and so eventually the price gouging will always correct itself, because price gouging to a point where everybody thinks it's a fair price to pay for it they just won't buy it, and then eventually, the company's going to go, "Fuck, we're not making any money. We better lower the price."
No, that's
the price gouging is price gouging is correctable.
That's a situation of urgency where you guys are talking about the market correcting himself by over a period of time because people aren't doing it. But when you're in like a crisis of urgency, let's say, right, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, right, you don't have that time to wait it out. It's like, I need gas or we're not going to have heat in the middle of winter. I need to run the thing, or my baby's, heart monitor, a thing that keeps them alive in the house, is not going to be working. So you're getting put in a squeeze in that position.
So
Do you know what I'm saying, though?
Yes, can I make the counter argument to that, though? I actually think those sorts of scenarios are even more of a reason for prices to be free and to be raised if necessary. Let's again go back to Hurricane
I'm
Sandy.
not saying right or wrong, but I was just saying, like, is there what do you guys think of the difference? Now, like, obviously we would all say, okay, there's a catastrophic event, the place has it, and your kid needs fucking an ounce of gasoline to be able to make its special
you
food.
You will then go and spend $20 a gallon to get them there. But the dumbass fucking idiot who didn't need to go buy gas but went to go buy it because
filling up tubs like totes,
right?
With
Again,
gas.
I remember there were lines of people after Hurricane Sandy lined up to buy gas in the little red things. How many of those people didn't actually need the gas? There's just a psychological phenomenon that happens that when people get online to get something, it's like there's a rare, like a thing that's rare, then everybody kind of wants it, and they didn't even. I guarantee you, a bunch of people bought it who didn't need it at the time, and they were only able to buy it because the price was kept artificially low by the government. Whereas if the price was really high, those people would have been like, okay, right now I actually don't need to go anywhere. It's only like 3 days. I'll just stay home and ride it out. And someone who actually did need gas would have went and paid the price for the gas, and they would have been able to get the gas faster. They wouldn't have had to wait online, et cetera, et cetera.
So how long did you guys go without power during that time?
I don't even know if I lost Hurricane Sandy.
Okay, so you're going from two guys that didn't lose any power. We were sitting in the fucking dark ages for almost
pussies.
By me,
fucking
no,
pussies.
but by me it was like 3 weeks.
Shut up, North Dakota.
Yeah, by me,
South
3
Dakota.
weeks, and then by some of the other towns, it was almost a full month without power, without water. So you couldn't even, like, you needed gas for your car. You don't realize how much shit you needed gas for, right? You're like, fuck, I need to get my gas, to go get the gas, to pick up the gas, to run the gas on the house. So, like, yes, 3 or 4 days is one thing. Once you start going into weeks, that's why I said, like, we were literally up by us. We were a couple days away from complete anarchy. I mean, the state troopers were standing at the gas stations with M4s literally outside. They were giving us odds and evens, license plate days we had to do. Then Pennsylvania stopped letting us come over the border to go get gas because I was close enough to Pennsylvania where I could run and, like, get gas for the generator where you wouldn't be in lines, or they actually had gas. So it's a weird time when those catastrophic events happen.
Sounds like to me
they were selling generator parts on the side of the highway. But this was with
price controls, right? Am I wrong? Am I right?
Yeah.
There were price controls that didn't allow them to raise the price. This is like the meme of Buffalo when it snowed and it was like 20 feet high, and everyone's driveway was plowed and the street wasn't plowed, and the meme's like a libertarian society. And I'm like, but that's not a libertarian society. That's fucking Buffalo right now. And the government didn't plow the road. You're telling me about a real life scenario where there were price controls, and you're like, it was chaos, and the police were there, making sure
the government did that. I don't think it was necessarily chaos because of price control. It was chaos because of what's it called?
The event, the externality. But what
they created the chaos. They created.
I think. Here's what I would say. In a natural, oh no worries. In a natural disaster, there's going to be a level of chaos. I mean, it's just that chaos will ensue. There's going to be a level of chaos that comes with that. Here's what I will say: if you are in desperate need of gas, if you go, say it was municipality based in Jersey at the time, one municipality said we're gonna put price controls on gas. The other one said we're not going to, but it's going to be spendy. And you're in desperate need of gas. Which one of the municipalities are you going to go to and think I have a better chance of getting the gas that I need, getting the gas that I need? Are you going to go to the price control one where everybody's lined up because it's cheap and the government says they can't charge over this and everybody can afford it? Or the one that says, like, hey, this is fucking $40 a gallon. I bet no one.
But it also wasn't a price control; it was a supply and demand. It was a supply control.
But that's always so. Price controls are an infringement on the supply and demand curves.
No, I agree with you guys from this aspect. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm just putting it out there as like it's not always gonna. You're not always gonna have enough ample time for the market to be able to correct itself that quickly.
Oh no, I completely disagree. The market instantly corrects itself in terms of prices and whatnot.
You think so?
Like a hurricane happens, it instantly becomes more difficult to transport gas or bring gas somewhere. The price instantly goes up. Like the information of prices is instant. There is the Soviet Union failed because people in like the central office in Moscow could not correctly predict what the price of like sheepskin should have been in Siberia because they were 7,000 fucking miles away, right? But if a free market can, on the drop of a dime, like accurately reflect what the price of,
and especially modern day. I mean, especially like with technology and social media, it's like today more than ever. If you leave the market be, it will correct itself faster than it could have ever corrected itself in the 50s or the 60s. Because if you hear about, say there's a product, and I understand what you're saying with the sort of state of emergency circumstance, but if we'll just say gas, if one town passes $5.60 per gallon, and then somebody takes a picture and posts it on social media of another gas station across town that's $2.50, immediately everybody's going to go over there and fucking and then guess what? When everybody goes over there, and then the guy goes, we're running out of gas, price is going up. All the while they're going to have to raise gas because they're becoming lower on their resource. Guess what the other person on the other side of town is going to do? They're going to start lowering the price to incentivize the people that went over to the other place to come back to them, because it's all profit. It's all, if you leave everything to just, how can I make sure this entity that I'm running is self-perpetuating and thrives? You don't want any external force hindering you from making the moves that need to be implemented, right? It's always people. I understand that people politically
100%. You don't want the government control in your back pocket, right? Like you got Skaggs. You own a business?
No, I don't own.
Chris, you own one?
No.
Wish no.
Zach, you?
No.
Okay, just checking. So what I'm saying, for somebody who's owned a business for 20 years, no, I get it. And this is what I'm saying. I appreciate, and I agree with you 100%. I do not want the government telling me I have to pay a fire fucking tax every year for $200 and something when the guy's never even building my goddamn building and he doesn't check. But I keep everything up to date so they don't close me down. Then I got to pay a tax just to use my name that I've had for 25 years that I paid a tax on, but they can't change my address, so they charge me an extra $25, and I've been changing it for 10 years now. So they made an extra fucking couple $100 off of their fuck ups. I get it 100%. But I agree. Certain things will take time to correct. And like what we're debating right now is just like you were saying, like a state of emergency situation versus thing. Do I want the government involved in anything? No. Believe me, I made myself fucking clear on that. But just from somebody who's had to pay the taxes, have to been through the government bureaucracy, had to file for PPP, had to file for this, had to do that. Like I have a good understanding of like, yes, the market will always reflect, but it does take more time than in an emergency situation. Yes, people will jack it up. I was buying generator parts off the side of the highway because you couldn't get them in New Jersey, but they were selling a $2 part for $60. So yes, it reflected in what you needed at the time. Was it right? Was it wrong? Do those people probably still have a special place in hell for me? Yes, they do. But, I think it just takes a little bit more time than it does instantly over the time. I know, it's crazy, right?
I understand what you're saying. Like if your family is at risk.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Some people don't have the money to pay the $20 for gas. We're talking
I think you're
position of white privilege here because we go to work.
I think you're looking, I remember Dr. Rechtenwald told us about subconscious Marxism. A lot of Americans have subconscious Marxism. They don't even realize they had. I think that's what you're looking at it through. I view it as, actually, if I care about my family, I want to make sure that they don't get fucked over by a natural disaster or something. Actually, the most efficient way to protect them and to get them the things they need is by allowing the free market process to play out. The government getting involved actually makes it worse for them, using Zach's exact scenario before.
But what I was saying is I don't think they were holding the prices down.
No, I think they were, man. I think they were.
No, they were. I think I'm pretty sure they were. I'm pretty sure they put, there was a,
at least in New York City they were, definitely,
mandate on, like, you couldn't go over a certain price per gallon.
Was that a federal move or was that a state move?
No, I think it was a state move.
I don't remember in Jersey. I don't remember if they did like put it like, all right, nobody charges more than $4 a gallon, like Skag said, right?
Yeah, like I remember that.
I just remember people being like, "This gas station has gas." You didn't care if it was $100 or $2. You needed gas at the time, right?
Right.
Well, and that's here's what it is. You would, you know, obviously there's some people who have more money than others, who can afford more gas than others. Yes. Here's it. At the end of the day, I would rather have the opportunity to pay an obscene amount for the gas that I need than gamble that the government putting in price controls will keep price down, and I hope that there's still gas left when I get there.
Right.
I'd rather other one.
Price controls create shortages of the product right now. Like, it's gas, it's very important, but Jesus Christ, if they get into price controls on food, now we're talking about real starve to death, probably, right? Because none of the prices make sense for anything. And if it costs to produce an egg $5 per egg, but they can only sell it for $2, well, what do you think they're going to fucking
go
do?
out of business?
They're going to say, hey, I ain't going to fucking make any eggs right now because it is not profitable, therefore I'm not going to do it. Right, and then you have no eggs, and then
the problem is they're trying to control it from the last end that they already fucked up and made it so expensive from the other end on the farmers and all the regulations and all the other shit. So they're creating the problem down here, and they're trying to give you the solution for the problem they created over here.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Like everything else, right?
Biden-Harris administration is, yes, exactly. They are creating some of the high prices we're seeing, and then they're offering us the solution of price controls to combat it, which will just make, consolidate more power for them, over us. Yeah, it's a great point, man. Look at these handsome fellas by Bodega Cat.
Mm-hmm.
True boy.
Bodega Cat's
is that a referee? Is that a referee?
I don't know. It looks like guys dancing. What is that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. And Bodega Cat says, I price gouged computer products during COVID. Sorry, you want a webcam? The place
Good
price
job.
is higher, I guess, due to demand. Yeah, you didn't price gouge, buddy. That is the free market in action.
Well, they still do that shit.
Definitely.
Like, you even say, like, you'll hear like supply companies when you're trying to, like, I do clothing and stuff too sometimes. And they're like, oh, the supply chain's still back. It costs more. I'm like, COVID was 4 fucking years ago, and you guys didn't fix your shipping yet. Like, what's going on?
How are you still accepting that ship?
Yes, exactly.
Simple. Don't buy it.
All right. Back to tweets
of the week. That was the most interesting part of the whole fucking podcast so far. Price controls. There we go. Just started with that.
All right. Elon Musk talking about taking back language. Excuse me. Nerfing of the gun emoji. Can you make it bigger, Skaggs? I can barely read it.
I can't. Nerfing of the gun emoji matches rise of the woke mind virus. As a core tenet is equating fake harm with real harm.
I think you just made it bigger.
Oh, sorry. But it would have got rid of the.
Oh, okay, yeah. So on X now, if you use the gun emoji, it's no longer the little water pistol like pussy, Apple made. It's back to an actual gun. And when he said, equating fake harm to real harm, that's what made me like this tweet so much because, sorry, there's meat. There's a steak emoji. Do we need to get rid of it because of vegans? No, not at all. People eat meat. I'm sorry, vegans. You don't get to win this one. This whole stupid thing, we're going to prevent gun violence by not having a gun emoji is just retarded. And I'm happy to see we are taking back language, and that's why we are allowed to say the word retard now.
is a
I like that
very
they actually
smart
put like a
point.
sweet 1911 up
Yeah,
there. Instead of
yeah.
like
They
the
stopped with the
old
little
revolver.
revolver and they went
Yeah.
with a nice badass 45.
I'll be honest with you, dude. I think that is it's Elon Musk. It's a very, very smart point. You could almost kind of right here, you have some data in front of you in this weird way. Where you could kind of chart out, the woke mind virus, whatever it is he wants to call it. Yeah, you're right. You could
2018,
multiple different platforms, how they're all changing from a gun to a water pistol. Yeah, it's a data point. Zach, what do you think about that? I feel like you always have something thoughtful to say on shit like this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't use emojis, but I guess if I were to use emojis, I would be threatening to end somebody's life. And so I am glad to see that I can make that as realistic as possible. I'm very glad. God, I mean, just because
now
the
it
state of
matches.
New Jersey says I can't own a gun doesn't mean I can't fucking verbalize my commitment to the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm just gonna say I applied for a handgun in New Jersey. It is a
The entire system is designed to deter you. I dealt with this in the state of New York. I'm dealing with this in the state of Connecticut right now.
They fingerprint you. Fingerprint you.
I know.
What
I had
the
to get
fuck?
fingerprinted. Yeah.
Yeah. You're a criminal.
And on top of it, so in New York, you have to buy your gun before you get your license, which makes no sense at all. And then the day you go to pick up your license, basically they're like, okay, the FBI cleared you. You're all good. Here's your license. And then you go over to the gun store, and then the gun store has to call up the FBI again and be like, hey, remember the guy you just gave a license to? Yeah. Did he do anything to get him taken off this list in the 60 minutes that it took him to get to the gun store? Are we still allowed to give him? They had to double check with the FBI moments after the FBI cleared me.
With the state police. I've been in Jersey, and that's how it's always been. But it used to be like you would once you got your firearms ID card that you have to get fingerprinted for, and you got to give 24 residences and 3 sperm samples and a pint of your blood before you can even purchase a gun. Then every time you have to purchase a handgun, you have to pay a ridiculous permit. Now it's up to $50 every time you want to purchase a gun.
Yeah, you gotta get a new permit,
$3, right? Which both of them are unconstitutional as it sits. But yeah, and then like every time like you get your concealed carry, you got to renew it every 2 years. You got to get re-fingerprinted. I'm like, you have my fingerprints for my ID. You have my fingerprints for my criminal background check. You have my finger. Like, how many times do I got to pay? It's just another cost for me to go pay and get fingerprinted.
It's all to deter you.
To go exercise my Second Amendment.
And then you slip up once, and they arrest you and put you in jail for 10 years.
You shoot one Puerto Rican, and they go crazy.
Because where does power reside? At the barrel of a gun. They don't like the concept of decentralized power. They don't like that concept, right? Where like the popular and armed populace, right? So of course it's in their interest to make sure that not everyone can easily have or get a gun or be demoralized. All right, this is my last tweet. David Attenborough says the fact that people have to work to eat is an inherent problem. And what's he talking about? He's responding to the new icon of the seas, a giant boat. And socialist communists complaining like about the how could we make this giant boat when people are struggling to eat in America?
Yeah, but some people aren't struggling.
Same way you fly around on your private jets and don't give a fuck about the rest
paid
of us.
to help build that boat, you dumb fuck. This goes back to your price controls and everything. Ain't nothing free. There's labor, mixing your labor with goods and services and whatnot, right? So
what's funny? There's the idea of like the fact that people have to work to eat is an inherent problem. It's like, well, even if there was no such thing as currency or civilization, you still have to like hunt.
Right.
Hunt.
Yeah.
You
still got to work
yourself. You're still putting work in for yourself.
Unless someone else does it for you, but then they have to still do it. So someone's still doing the work.
Picking berries and fishing is work.
Good. Again, Captain, we've made the point. Unless like the deer are literally jumping into your campfire, suicidal, cooking themselves. But then you still kind of do have to do the work to like pick up the meat and put it in your mouth. I don't know, man. They're gonna have to like jump into the fire, cook themselves, and then their fucking zombie charred corpse is gonna have to like
skin themselves
dive into your mouth.
Got themselves,
very
drag themselves back,
detached from fucking reality.
Yep.
At least a lot of people on Twitter are. Let's put it that way.
All right.
Here's what I will. I'll defend. I'll to end this. I will defend
the charred deer.
The sort of the college student. Nobody should have to work for anything. I will say a lot of people in like the Boomer and Gen X generation go like, people. What's wrong with these? Or what's wrong with these? These millennials and the Gen Z people. They're like, you don't think anybody has to work? They don't fucking. They think that they should transition children. It's like, so I always constantly hear like Boomers and Gen X bitching about millennial and Gen Z. Here's what my response would be, and by the way, it is righteous. They're not wrong about their critiques, but my question back to them would be, well, who raised those generations? You saying that millennials and
time.
Millennials and Gen Z
about the people or the people that rose them?
Yeah, it's like they're like, well, your generation doesn't have ethics, and I'm like, well, your generation raised our generation, so what?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah. You don't want to get me on a fucking rant about boomers, buddy. They don't take accountability for anything. They are the root of many of the problems we face in society right now. Yeah.
And literally 90% of your household.
Every single person in government is a fucking boomer to this point still. Literally, they won't even give up power in that regard. So they're complaining about the millennials, right? But they're all still fucking holding on to the reins of power to the day they fucking die.
J.D. Vance.
Like Dianne Feinstein and, Mitch McConnell, who's there, just spacing out. So.
J.D. Vance, finally a millennial in the White House. So
I did a rope swing into a lake from Mitch McConnell's neck.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you guys. Do you still have the show, Zach? Do you want to shout anything out, or what's going on?
Yeah, UnfitStatesman. We're back to audio only for my solo episodes. Guests will be video, and
very good.
Just go everywhere except YouTube and Rumble. I don't know how to do an audio only. I don't know how to upload an audio only episode to Rumble. I don't know if they allow it.
You just got to make like a picture. Just make like your own statesman picture and then drag it the length of your audio. That's the easiest way to do it. So it makes it become a video.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I know what you mean. Rumble.
I think you used to do that on your original YouTube videos.
Yeah.
It used to just be the Unfit Statesman with the smoke rising.
Oh yeah. I guess I did do that for YouTube. Yeah.
You can do that for Rumble.
Let's do that again.
Yeah. I changed my logo. It's better.
Nice.
Cool. All right, gentlemen, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for being part of White Dudes for Harris. Thank you guys. Doom Nation, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. I know we did. We will be back next week. As always, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Adios, Doom Nation.